Your Excellency, Prime Minister of the Republic of Korea, Minister of the Environment of Korea and Governor of Gangwon Province, all ministers present, Chief Executive of the Global Environment Facility, Deputy Executive Director of UNEP, Executive Secretary of the CBD, and all participants at this COP-12. And can I add the thanks of UNDP to the Government of the Republic of Korea for hosting this very important conference, for its strong partnership with UNDP over decades, and for the significant commitments, Prime Minister, which you have announced to biodiversity conservation in your speech this morning. I believe everyone here appreciates that human survival and well-being depend heavily upon the Earth's biodiversity, and that biodiversity loss has serious implications not only for our natural environment, it also undermines our livelihoods, our health, our food, our water security. We look at the appalling slaughter of Africa's wildlife as a case in point. The one-off sum paid for killing an elephant by the criminal syndicates driving the illegal trade is minute compared to the value of a live elephant to a country and its ecotourism industry. In the case of Kenya, for example, that value of one live elephant is estimated at $1 million to the country over the elephant's lifetime. And so poaching, killing that elephant, undermines the prospects for local communities, for whole countries, for sustainable development. The parties to this convention have long recognised the importance of biodiversity for sustainable development. And 4 years ago in Nagoya, you, the parties, committed to take urgent action to halt biodiversity loss, and you laid out ambitious targets to be achieved by 2020. We have seen some progress on the Aichi targets. For example, on meeting the target of conserving at least 17% of terrestrial areas. That is more or less on track. But our assessment is that progress overall is not comprehensive nor far-reaching enough for that target of halting biodiversity loss by 2020 as intended to be met. And we all have to step up to meet the Aichi targets. So what can be done? Well, at UNDP we think a critical step is recognising that maintaining biodiversity is related not only to direct conservation measures, but also to pursuing poverty reduction and human development in ways which are environmentally sustainable. This will be of critical importance to the post-2015 development agenda, and we believe that agenda and the sustainable development goals which will come with it are a big opportunity to advance biodiversity. The UN General Assembly has had an open working group on the Sustainable Development Goals, and that group has proposed 2 standalone goals for biodiversity, one on oceans and another on the terrestrial ecosystems. And it has also proposed making biodiversity part of other goals, like those on poverty eradication, food security and water. We at UNDP take an holistic approach to maintaining biodiversity. That is reflected in our new strategic plan for 2014 to 17, and it is interwoven across our work, building on our global biodiversity framework, which we launched at COP-11 in Hyderabad 2 years ago. This is enabling us to scale up support to countries to address biodiversity loss and to do so in ways which join the dots between development and conservation. Our current $1.5 billion portfolio of biodiversity projects sees us working in 132 countries, variously to mainstream biodiversity into development planning and operations, to maximise the conservation and the economic benefits from establishing protective areas, and addressing climate change by reducing carbon emissions from forest loss and securing ecosystem services for climate change adaptation, such as the flood control services our intact wetlands and mangrove forests provide. We could not do our work without the incredible support from our very close partner, the Global Environment Facility. And I acknowledge the Executive Director, Ms. Ishii, here today. And we thank all other partners and funds who support our biodiversity portfolio. We think the work is getting results. We have many good stories. Just one, Indonesia. We work with government and other partners to combat land degradation and soil erosion by providing small grants to more than 100 community-based organisations. And in exchange for those developmental grants, the communities undertake to do land conservation activities. To date, they have planted more than 1 million Indigenous trees. That's provided work opportunities, it's improved the habitat, it's prevented soil erosion, and it is enhancing the groundwater supplies. Now, money is often at the heart of discussions about how we implement and live up to our targets. And I want to mention one of our flagship programs, the Biodiversity Finance Initiative, called BioFin for short, which has been generously supported by the European Union, Germany and Switzerland. BioFin is about a methodology for a bottom-up assessment of what the biodiversity finance gap is. And we are supporting 19 countries currently to assess that gap. That involves engaging those very important ministries of finance and planning in identifying areas of spending which may be having negative impacts on biodiversity. And that work then lays the ground for estimating the cost of the actions countries need to take to address biodiversity loss, while also maximising the human development benefits of those actions. With that analysis done, the countries who've been part of BioFin are well equipped then to identify the range of funding sources, public and private, national and international, to fill the biodiversity finance gap. There is quite a queue of countries wanting to be part of this initiative, and we are now aiming to expand the work, of course, with support of partners. We know this conference will look at the important roles of both official development assistance and domestic funding in filling in the biodiversity finance gap. We think it's not a matter of either or, it's both. Unlocking the benefits of biodiversity for development calls for expanded funding on all fronts, including through domestic fiscal reforms, creative partnerships with the private sector, and the continued support from the international partners. Another highlight of the proceedings leading up to today's events has been the coming into force of the Nagoya Protocol. This is a critical vehicle for facilitating shared access to genetic resources and benefits resulting from the use of those assets in research and product development. Working with our close partner, the Global Environment Facility, UNDP has been supporting more than 20 countries to prepare for implementation of the Nagoya Protocol and to facilitate deals which will see benefits start to flow to countries and communities. We think that such actions, when replicated, scaled up and backed up by adequate finance, will make a significant contribution to biodiversity conservation and to development which is sustainable, equitable, inclusive. In closing, let me emphasise that while big challenges remain in meeting the Aichi targets, there have also been significant successes. The vision of the strategic plan to halt the loss of biodiversity can be achieved if every state party and other stakeholders commit to making that happen. I wish all participants a very constructive conference here in the Republic of Korea and look forward to hearing of the new commitments to be made to meet the Aichi targets. Thank you very much.